The mockery begins. The Galactic Council chamber was carved from crystal and steel, a cathedral of power that floated in the emptiness between suns. Delegates of hundreds of species filled the tiers, their voices echoing across the chamber in a chorus of laughter and derision. At the center table, beneath the watchful eyes of 1,000 recording drones, sat the small human delegation. They wore plain black suits, with no gleaming medals or flowing robes. No symbols of conquest etched into their skin or armor. They looked almost invisible among the flamboyant alien leaders, and perhaps that was why the laughter grew louder. A reptilian ambassador from the Vythe stood tall, his scales glimmering in the artificial light as he sneered at the humans. He announced to the chamber that the species of Earth were unfit for true galactic membership, that they were too fragile, too soft, and too bound to a dying homeworld. His words dripped with venom as he reminded the council of how easily human ships had been swept aside during early encounters with minor pirate fleets. He called Earth a planet of dreamers who mistook stubbornness for strength. The chamber erupted in mocking applause. The humans did not rise. They sat still, hands folded. On the table, their eyes locked forward. Their leader, Ambassador Hayes, gave no visible reaction. His face was calm, though inside his chest his heart pounded with the insult. Around him sat aides and quiet advisors, all trained to remain motionless under the storm of ridicule. The galaxy expected a protest, perhaps an outburst, but the humans had agreed before coming here that silence would be their shield. To argue would only feed the mockery. To respond with anger would confirm the image of instability. So they endured. A tall avian delegate from the Zetheri spread her wings wide, feathers glistening with oils. She taunted the humans by recounting how even her young hatchlings had more advanced training simulators than the entire human navy. She laughed that humanity had no fleet, only broken freighters and recycled military husks held together with welding scars. The crowd jeered again, and several species imitated the sound of human speech in cruel parody, making guttural noises and clumsy words to bring more laughter. Still, the humans sat in silence. Yet if one looked closely into their eyes, they would not see shame. They would see something harder, colder, as though every insult was being measured and stored away like ammunition. The alien delegates saw only quiet, and mistook it for weakness. They did not understand that silence could also mean patience. Ambassador Hayes finally rose when the mockery reached its height. He did not shout, nor did he speak in trembling defense. He simply thanked the council for its time and stated that humanity had come only to listen and learn. His voice carried no anger, no arrogance, but it cut through the noise like a blade. The chamber grew quieter, for though the aliens thought they had won their game, something about Hayes's tone unsettled them. He bowed slightly and sat again, and the humans once more folded into stillness. In the upper balconies, young alien cadets whispered to one another. Some joked about humans being a passing experiment, a species that would vanish within centuries. Others, less certain, frowned at the humans' composure. They were used to prey breaking when cornered, but humans did not look broken. They looked like soldiers waiting for a signal. As the laughter faded into new debates about trade routes and wars in distant sectors, humanity's silence became the background hum of the chamber. No one realized that beneath the oceans of Earth, beneath deserts and mountains far from the eyes of the galaxy, something vast and hidden was being forged. The humans had been mocked for their lack of ships, but what the council could not imagine was that humanity had chosen not to display their true strength until the right moment. For now, they played the role of the weak, the overlooked, the species, too fragile to matter. They let the galaxy believe the lie because every day the lie was believed was another day of secrecy, another day to prepare. Ambassador Hayes lowered his eyes, not in shame, but in calculation. The words of the council would echo across newsnets, but the humans had heard worse. Humanity had always been underestimated. That was the mistake predators had made on Earth for millions of years, and it was the mistake the galaxy was making now. The chamber closed its session with jeers still ringing against the crystal walls, and the humans departed quietly, disappearing into shadowed corridors. To the galaxy, they looked defeated, humiliated, and weak. But to themselves, they walked as keepers of a secret too vast for laughter to touch. A secret forged in silence, hidden in the dark, waiting for the day it would step into the light. Shadows of the past, long before the Galactic Council meeting where humanity endured the storm of insults, Earth had already faced its first bitter lessons in the wider universe. The first human ships that reached beyond the solar system were explorers, small vessels with eager crews who believed discovery would be met with respect. Instead, they found predators waiting. Raiders descended on their convoys, alien fleets tested their defenses, and what little resistance Earth could mount was torn apart like paper in the wind. Reports came back of destroyed freighters, lost colonists, and messages cut short by screams before static filled the channels. Each defeat hardened the soul of Earth, but also spread a cruel reputation that humans were weak and slow and unworthy of the stars. Yet behind the grief and anger, leaders of Earth began to build something different. While alien observers wrote them off, humanity withdrew from the stage, no longer sending warships to lose hopeless battles, no longer throwing fleets into voids they could not control. Instead, governments and corporations came together in a silence that was almost unnatural for a species known for loud arguments and endless debate. They decided on a single course, and though many disagreed, in the end, they obeyed. Humanity would build one ship, a warship unlike any the galaxy had ever seen, and it would be hidden until the right time. They called it Project Revenant, though the name was never spoken outside secure vaults. Deep beneath the oceans of Earth, inside massive caverns shielded with layers of metal and silence, the work began. Engineers who had designed civilian crafts were pulled from their homes and sworn to secrecy. Soldiers were trained not for open battle but for endurance, for patience, for service aboard a vessel that could not exist. Scientists scoured every scrap of alien wreckage humanity had salvaged, blending it with Earth's own brutal efficiency. Piece by piece, a shadow was taking shape. It was not easy. Earth was not rich compared to the ancient empires that mocked it. Resources were scarce, mistakes costly, and every breakthrough came at a price. Families lived without comfort as materials vanished into hidden factories. Nations that once fought bitterly over borders now shared secrets in silence. Their leaders reminded that if Earth fell to alien predators, then no border would matter. The project became a unifying burden, binding humanity in ways no treaty or alliance had ever managed. For once, the human race was not divided by ideology but united by survival. In those early years, there were whispers that the project was foolish. Some claimed no warship could ever be strong enough to match the alien dreadnoughts, that Earth was wasting what little it had. Yet those voices were silenced not by force, but by time. When news came of another human colony burned to ash, when pirates enslaved settlers and laughed about Earth's helplessness, the doubters found their voices stolen by grief. The world poured itself back into the project, for there was no other hope. Generations of builders worked without recognition, knowing their names would never be sung until the moment came. Families kept secrets that even neighbors never guessed. Children grew up hearing stories of distant relatives who had gone to work on something important, something hidden, something they could never speak about. Across the planet, silence grew heavy, but beneath that silence burned determination. Humanity had been mocked before, even by its own kind, yet it always returned stronger. This time would be no different. Ambassador Hayes, the man who had faced the Council's jeers, had been one of the few trusted enough to know the truth. Years before becoming a diplomat, he had stood inside the cavern where the first frame of the hidden ship had been laid. He remembered the smell of welding sparks, the echo of hammers, the sweat of workers who knew that failure meant extinction. He had sworn then that no insult would ever pierce him, because every laugh from the galaxy was another day the secret could grow. When he sat silent before the Council, it was not weakness he carried, but memory. The galaxy thought humans had given up. The galaxy thought Earth was too broken to rise again. Yet while alien navies boasted of their victories, while smug delegates paraded their power, humans were quietly crafting a weapon of their own design. Not just a ship, but a promise, a shadow that would wait in the dark until the light of mockery grew too bright to bear. And when that day came, Humanity would not answer with words or pleas. They would answer with steel, with fire, with the silence breaking at last into thunder. For now the council could laugh, and the galaxy could mock, but deep beneath the waves of Earth, the shadow ship waited. Its hull grew thicker, its engines stronger, its heart alive with the labor of 1,000 hands. Humanity's silence was not surrender. It was the patience of a predator, waiting for the perfect strike. Council challenge. The days after the council meeting carried the echo of laughter across the galaxy. News networks replayed the mocking speeches of alien delegates, broadcasting their insults to millions of worlds. To most observers, humanity had appeared beaten and humiliated. To the council species, it was another day proving the order of the stars remained unshaken. Yet not everyone was satisfied. Some species wanted more than words. They wanted to see, Earth shamed openly and crushed before the eyes of the galaxy. One such voice came from the Dravathi Dominion, a proud empire whose dreadnought fleets had conquered 100 systems. Their ambassador, a massive figure clad in armor that glowed with pulsing lines of energy, rose during the next council gathering. He demanded proof that humanity was even worthy of keeping a seat at the table. His voice thundered across the chamber as he called humans parasites who hid behind silence. He declared that if Earth truly claimed to have strength, then it should show it, here and now, before the entire council. The chamber erupted in approval from those who thrived on spectacle. The idea of forcing humans into a public display was too entertaining to resist. A challenge was set. The Dominion announced it would bring one of its dreadnoughts, a ship so large it could eclipse the light of smaller moons, into the orbit of the council station. Humanity, they sneered, was invited to show its might in response. If they had no warship to stand against it, then they should leave the council forever and return to the obscurity of their homeworld. Eyes turned to the human delegation. Ambassador Hayes stood slowly, his expression calm but his mind racing. Around him his aides kept still, their silence the same as before, but inside their hearts the challenge struck with force. This was the moment humanity had both feared and prepared for. The alien powers were no longer satisfied with words. They demanded proof. Hayes spoke softly, yet his words carried across the chamber. He accepted the challenge. The council grew quiet in surprise. Many expected him to retreat or beg for mercy. Instead, he stated that humanity would answer the Dominion's display of power with a demonstration of its own. He requested the council's permission to broadcast the event across the known galaxy, so no one could deny what was witnessed. Murmurs swept through the chamber. The alien delegates exchanged glances, some amused, some curious, some unsettled. Could the humans truly believe they had something to show? Something worthy of standing against a Dominion dreadnought? The majority laughed again, but this time, the laughter carried an edge of uncertainty. Far above the council chamber, preparations began. The Dominion warship, the colossal dreadnought called the Hammer of Stars, was already on its way. Its hull bristled with heavy cannons and shield, arrays its size greater than the largest human city. It was a floating fortress designed not only for war but for intimidation. Across the galaxy, billions tuned in to the council's broadcast channels, eager to watch the humans falter. In the shadows of the chamber, Hayes's aides exchanged quiet looks. Each one of them had sworn secrecy to the same project that burned beneath Earth's oceans. Each one knew the ship was ready. Each one knew the time had finally come. For decades, humanity had been silent, and now the moment of revelation had arrived. The Revenant would no longer remain a ghost. Still, the tension weighed heavy. If the project had failed in secret, if the ship could not perform as intended, then humanity's gamble would end in disaster. Hayes carried the burden in his heart, but showed nothing on his face. He bowed once to the council and returned to his seat, his words hanging in the air like a promise. When the council session ended, alien reporters swarmed with questions. What could humans possibly show? What ship did they dare present? Rumors spread wildly, some claiming Earth had cobbled together another freighter with painted guns, others claiming it was all a bluff to stall humiliation. Few truly believed humans had anything at all, and that disbelief became the entertainment of the age. Yet across the black sea of stars, something vast and silent stirred. In hidden space where alien eyes could not reach, humanity's answer prepared itself. The ship they had mocked as impossible, the warship that should not exist, was rising from the shadows. Soon it would move. Soon the galaxy would learn the cost of its laughter. The hidden ship moves, far from the glittering halls of the Galactic Council and the orbit of its shining station. A shadow stirred in the deep of space. Humanity had chosen its hiding place well, a stretch of dark void beyond regular travel lanes where suns were faint and worlds were barren. Here, in a silence unbroken for decades, the great warship waited. It was known among its builders as the Revenant, though no alien had ever heard the name. Cloaked by fields that bent light and confused even the most advanced scanners, it drifted unseen, a ghost among the stars. The crew aboard the Revenant lived in secrecy and discipline. Many had been born into the project, trained from childhood to serve on a ship no outsider could ever know. They spoke rarely of Earth, though it was always in their hearts. Instead, they spoke of duty and survival. Each man and woman aboard knew they carried the burden of an entire species, and failure meant not just their deaths but the humiliation and collapse of humanity itself. In the control decks, engineers moved with precision, maintaining engines that could outpace cruisers and weapons that had never before been fired in anger. Orders arrived through encrypted channels, a signal carrying the words that had been long awaited. The Council challenge had been made. Humanity had been called out before the galaxy. It was time to move. The Revenant's commander, Captain Rourke, stood before the crew and delivered the simple command: break silence, begin approach. Engines whispered to life, vibrations spreading through the massive hull. No alarm sounded, no lights blazed, for the ship's systems were designed to remain hidden even in motion. Outside the hull, its cloak shimmered like a ripple across water, bending the image of starlight until the ship vanished again into nothingness. Alien patrols swept distant sectors, but they detected only the emptiness of space. The Revenant slid between them unseen, silent as a predator stalking its prey. The approach to the Council system was long and tense. Within the ship, the crew worked without rest. Weapons were checked and rechecked, missiles loaded into hidden bays, rail cannons charged for the first time since testing. Shield generators hummed with power, their capacity far beyond anything the galaxy believed humans capable of building. The vessel's heart, a fusion drive of terrifying scale, pulsed steadily, promising speed and endurance unmatched. As they drew closer, the crew watched the broadcast streams. Images of the Dominion dreadnought filled the screens, the hammer of stars already taking orbit near the Council station. Its weapons glittered in the void, its massive silhouette dwarfing escort ships that circled it like birds around a beast. Alien commentators praised its might, mocking humanity for what was sure to come. Billions tuned in across the galaxy, eager for a show of humiliation. On the bridge of the Revenant, Captain Rourke listened in silence. He had served in Earth's early fleets and remembered the days when their ships had been torn apart by pirates. He remembered seeing colonies fall because they lacked even basic defenses. Now he stood aboard a ship that was nothing like those fragile craft. This ship was the answer to every insult, every defeat, every loss humanity had endured. Still, he knew the moment of revelation carried danger. If the Revenant failed, there would be no second chance. The closer they drew to the Council system, the more tense the air became. Every crew member felt the weight of billions of lives resting on their success, yet none faltered. In the training halls of Earth, they had been told one truth again and again. Humanity survived not because it was strongest or richest, but because it never yielded. That truth burned in every heart aboard the Revenant as it glided unseen into the system. Soon the Council station came into view, a glittering hub surrounded by fleets of varied species. Thousands of eyes scanned the void, searching for the humans' response, yet nothing appeared. Some believed the challenge had been accepted as a bluff. Laughter once again filled the broadcast channels. The Dominion dreadnought displayed its power by firing practice volleys, explosions of light that lit up the darkness as if daring humanity to respond. And still, nothing could be seen. No ship approached, no fleet rose to meet the dreadnought. The galaxy laughed louder, but within the cloak of bending light, the Revenant moved closer, its weapons locked and ready. The crew waited for the order that would break decades of silence. In the council chamber, Ambassador Hayes sat motionless as alien eyes turned on him, mocking, curious, impatient. Did humans truly have nothing? Or were they hiding some pathetic attempt? Hayes kept his voice calm as he spoke the words he had prepared for years. He requested the council's full attention, and when granted, he uttered the command to his unseen allies. Now. The signal reached the Revenant. For a heartbeat, the ship remained a ghost, cloaked and hidden. Then, with a soundless ripple, the cloak dissolved. Before the eyes of billions, a shape emerged from the void, larger than any human ship the galaxy had ever known, darker than the void itself, bristling with weapons and shielded with armor that glowed faintly in the starlight. The Revenant appeared behind the hammer of stars. Silence fell across the stars as the Predator showed its fangs. Shock and awe. The moment the Revenant decloaked, the galaxy seemed to stop breathing. Billions of eyes across 1,000 systems stared at their screens in disbelief. The council chamber went utterly silent, the laughter dying on alien lips as the image of the human warship filled the broadcast. Its vast hull stretched across the void like a wall of black steel, bristling with cannons and launch bays, a shadow that seemed alive. Compared to the Dominion dreadnought that had been brought to shame humanity, the Revenant was larger, darker, and far more threatening. It carried the weight of silence turned into strength. On the bridge of the Hammer of Stars, alien officers scrambled to understand what their sensors were telling them. Only moments earlier they had scanned the space behind them and found nothing. Yet now a massive vessel loomed within firing range. Panic spread through the crew as they realized the human ship had approached unseen. Their commander barked orders demanding shields raised and weapons locked on target, but the fear in his voice betrayed his doubt. How could such a ship exist without any of them knowing? Across the council station, alien delegates rose from their seats in shock. Feathers flared, scales rippled, tendrils tightened as species from every corner of the galaxy struggled to comprehend what had appeared. Only the humans sat quietly. Ambassador Hayes kept his hands folded before him, his face calm as the storm of disbelief raged. His silence was no longer mistaken for weakness. It had become the silence of certainty. The Hammer of Stars fired first. Great lances of energy leapt from its cannons, blazing across the void toward the Revenant. The galaxy leaned forward, certain the human ship would burn under the assault. Instead, the beams struck the Revenant's shields and scattered like rain against stone. Sparks of light burst outward, dazzling but harmless. The human warship held steady, untouched. On the bridge, Captain Rourke gave no order to retaliate. He simply allowed the alien dreadnought to exhaust its opening fury, the first strike of arrogance meeting the patience of steel. When the Dominion ship ceased fire, silence once again filled the void. The Revenant shifted, its massive rail cannons aligning with precision. Orders carried through the decks as targeting arrays locked onto the dreadnought's engines and weapons. With a voice like thunder, Rourke gave the command to fire. The first volley roared from the human ship. Rail slugs the size of shuttles streaked through the darkness, glowing with plasma as they slammed into the Hammer of Stars. Shields shattered under the force, armor crumpled as though paper, and entire sections of the dreadnought flickered into ruin. Missiles followed, streaking past escorts with impossible accuracy, striking weapon pods and detonating them before they could recharge. Each hit was deliberate, precise, not to slaughter but to cripple. Across the galaxy, viewers gasped. The mighty dreadnought of the Dominion, a symbol of their power, was being dismantled piece by a ship the galaxy had not even known existed. The laughter of days before turned to stunned silence, then to fear. If humanity could build such a weapon in secret, what else could they do? The Hammer of Stars staggered, fires burning along its hull, its weapons failing one after another. Its commander ordered retreat, but the engines were dead, torn apart by the Revenant's calculated strikes. The alien crew faced the horrifying truth. They were alive only because the humans chose to let them live. On the council chamber screens, the image of the human warship standing untouched against the crippled dreadnought burned into memory. Ambassador Hayes rose slowly. His voice was calm as he addressed the council. Humanity had not come to boast, he said. Humanity had not come to mock. Humanity had endured silence because it was preparing. And now, with the galaxy as witness, humanity had proven it was no longer weak, no longer prey. The council must understand that Earth's patience was not surrender. It was warning. The words struck harder than the cannons. Delegates who once jeered now looked at the humans with unease. Even the proudest alien empires could not deny what their eyes had seen. A species they had mocked as fragile had revealed a warship greater than their strongest fleets. Respect, once impossible, now hung heavy in the chamber. In orbit, the Revenant ceased fire. The hammer of stars drifted powerless, alive only because its destroyer had shown restraint. Captain Rourke stood with his crew in silence, waiting for further orders, their weapons ready, yet their hearts steady. They had proven humanity's strength, and they had done it with precision that would be remembered for centuries. The galaxy now knew the truth. Humanity had hidden in shadows, endured insults, suffered defeats, but it had not broken. It had built a weapon in silence, and in silence it had waited. Now that silence had shattered into thunder, and nothing in the stars would ever be the same again. Humanity strikes back. The galaxy had fallen into silence. Where laughter once filled the halls of the council chamber, there was now only the heavy quiet of disbelief. The Dominion dreadnought drifted helplessly in orbit, its weapons ruined, its engines silent, its massive frame glowing with the fires of defeat. Around it the human warship hovered like a dark shadow, motionless yet filled with restrained power. The Revenant did not deliver a killing blow, though it could have ended the hammer of stars with a single command. Instead it waited, its weapons locked but not unleashed, and the choice to spare spoke louder than destruction ever could. On the bridge of the Revenant, Captain Rourke stood with his crew. His eyes moved over the screens where the damaged dreadnought floated, sparks leaping across torn metal, escape pods trembling but not launched. He spoke firmly to his officers. Target weapons disabled, target engines disabled, casualties minimized. Humanity does not come here to massacre. His words carried through the ship, and the crew obeyed with steady hands, holding fire though the galaxy expected slaughter. The council chamber stirred again as Ambassador Hayes rose. His voice carried over the broadcast that stretched to every world watching. He reminded the council of the insults thrown at his people, of the mockery that had echoed across stars. He said that humanity had been silent not because it was weak, but because it was building in secret, because it had learned long ago that the loudest voices often feared the quietest enemies. His words struck deep into the hearts of the delegates. For the first time in generations, the council looked upon humans not with amusement but with fear. Some alien ambassadors tried to recover their composure. The Vaith reptilian who had mocked humanity earlier hissed that perhaps this was only one ship. Perhaps it was a desperate gamble and nothing more. But the words were weak and unconvincing. No one could deny what had been seen. No one could forget the image of a Dominion dreadnought broken in minutes by a human vessel that was not supposed to exist. Across the galaxy in military command centers, admirals and warlords watched in silence. Some clenched claws and talons, in rage, furious that prey had risen to predator. Others sat in unease, calculating how many of their fleets might fall if more ships like the Revenant existed. Even allies of the Dominion whispered that they could not challenge humans now without risking humiliation of their own. The balance of power had shifted in a single moment. On Earth, the people watched with tears in their eyes. For decades, they had lived under the shadow of alien superiority, mocked and dismissed by powers that ruled the stars. Now they saw their secret weapon revealed, and for the first time they felt pride that reached beyond their world. Children cheered in crowded squares, Families wept together. Soldiers saluted the screens, knowing the sacrifices of hidden years had not been in vain. Ambassador Hayes spoke again. He declared that humanity sought no conquest, no empire, only respect and the right to stand as equals among the stars. Yet his voice carried an iron edge when he warned that if humanity was mocked again, if it was threatened again, it would not hesitate to defend itself with the strength it had revealed. The council shifted uncomfortably, aware that the humans had not made threats but promises backed by undeniable proof. The hammer of stars sent a signal of surrender, its commander humbled before the watching galaxy. Captain Rourke accepted without arrogance, transmitting coordinates for rescue shuttles to assist the wounded. The choice stunned even more onlookers. Humanity had not only proven its might, but had shown mercy and victory. Where other species might have crushed an enemy to ash, the humans chose restraint, a message that resonated across countless worlds. The council session ended in confusion. Some delegates whispered of alliances, eager to secure ties with the species, now too dangerous to ignore. Others plotted revenge, though their eyes betrayed fear. A new truth had been born, one that no insult could erase. Humanity was no longer a background species, no longer the object of laughter. It was a force to be reckoned with, unpredictable, dangerous, and patient. On the bridge of the Revenant, the crew stood together in silence, staring at the stars beyond the council station. They knew this was only the beginning. Their ship had been revealed, their secret shown to the galaxy. But they also knew that the respect they had won today would bring challenges tomorrow. Rivals would test them, enemies would seek to destroy them, and allies would try to use them. Yet none of it mattered. They had proven the truth. Humanity was not weak, humanity was not prey. Humanity had endured and struck back, and the galaxy would never forget it. The new era. The galaxy had changed forever. Where once humans had been whispered about as curiosities or dismissed as weaklings, now their name carried weight in every council chamber, in every fleet command, and across every world that had ever mocked them. The hidden ship, the Revenant, had shown not only technological mastery but the patience and strategy that made humans unpredictable and dangerous. Captain Rourke walked the bridge of the ship, the hum of the engines beneath his feet a constant reminder that their secret was now the galaxy's open truth, and that the future had become something they would shape with their own hands. The Dominion had retreated to distant systems, their dreadnoughts repaired but their pride shattered. Across the stars, other species whispered urgently to each other, debating the threat that humanity now posed. Would they come seeking revenge, or would they approach with caution, offering alliances in fear of what might come next? The humans did not rush to answer, their patience honed through centuries of underestimation. They had learned that true power was not in the speed of attack but in the timing, in the control of perception, in the quiet showing of strength when the moment demanded. On Earth, celebrations erupted as news of the human victory spread. Cities gleamed under lights and fireworks, but beyond the joy there was resolve. Leaders knew that humanity's exposure would invite challenges, that the galaxy would test them constantly. Scientists and engineers worked day and night, expanding the designs revealed in the Revenant, preparing for the inevitable encounters with those who had once laughed. Soldiers trained harder than ever, not only with weapons but in strategy, in adaptability, and resilience. Humanity was awakening fully to its role among the stars. Ambassador Hayes addressed the United Council once more, his voice firm and steady. He spoke of a new era, where humans would not bow or hide, where diplomacy would be backed by the undeniable proof of capability, where every insult would be met with respect, and every threat with preparedness. He called for unity among humans, and offered open hands to allies who would stand alongside them. But he warned that those who sought to dominate or mock would meet consequences they could not imagine. The galaxy listened, and for the first time humans were feared not for cruelty but for their resolve, for the knowledge that they would not be underestimated again. Even among the former enemies of humanity, change had begun. Some reached out, seeking treaties and agreements, offering resources and information, hoping to secure positions in a world where humans were no longer the underdogs. Others plotted, but caution restrained them. They had seen the Revenant in action, the efficiency, the precision, the restraint, and they understood that misjudging humans now could cost them everything. In this quiet tension, the seeds of a new, galactic order were planted, one that humanity would help shape without compromise. Captain Rourke looked out over the stars, his crew at their stations ready for whatever would come next. He knew that their role had changed from secret guardians to leaders in a galaxy that would never again take humanity lightly. They had learned that respect was earned through strength and wisdom, that fear could be tempered by mercy, and that survival was not enough. They would rise beyond it. The bridge of the Revenant was no longer just a command center. It was a symbol, a statement that humans had arrived in full force, and that the galaxy would bend to the realization of their power. As the Revenant set course for uncharted space, leaving behind the Council and the shattered remnants of the Dominion fleet, humanity felt its heartbeat echo across worlds. They were explorers, warriors, diplomats, and strategists all in one, a species tempered by hardship and refined by secrecy. Every challenge they faced had prepared them for this moment, and every victory had shown that the galaxy underestimated them at its peril. The hidden ship had decloaked, and now so had humanity, no longer silent, no longer dismissed, no longer the species that others could mock with impunity. The stars themselves seemed to acknowledge the change. Planets lit with activity, fleets repositioned cautiously, and civilizations paused to watch what humans would do next. The galaxy had been mocked, it had been challenged, and it had learned that humans were neither weak nor predictable. They were a force to be reckoned with, a storm in quiet form, a species that had hidden in patience and now struck in full awareness. This was not the end of conflict, but the beginning of a new era, one in which humans would write their own story among the stars, guided by courage, intelligence, and the unshakable will to survive and thrive. Humanity had decloaked, and the galaxy would never forget it. Humanity ascendant. The galaxy held its breath as humans moved with a purpose no species had ever anticipated. Their fleets glimmered under distant suns, 1,000 ships weaving through space with precision and speed that defied expectation. Every crew member trained to the peak of endurance, every captain ready to make choices that could change the course of history forever. The hidden strategies that had kept humanity safe for centuries now became the foundation of a new order. A quiet confidence flowed through every human soul, a sense of knowing that their time had come, and that the universe would have to reckon with them in ways it had never imagined. On distant worlds, alien species watched in awe and fear as humans established new outposts, building stations that combined elegance and lethal efficiency, each structure a testament to ingenuity and relentless determination. Every human engineer and soldier worked side by side, forging bonds that were unbreakable in the face of cosmic uncertainty. The hidden ship that had decloaked revealed not just technology, but a philosophy that humans embraced fully: strength, without arrogance, patience, without hesitation, and courage that burned like a beacon across the void. Captain Rourke stood once more on the bridge of the flagship, looking out across the expanse of stars, feeling the weight of responsibility and the thrill of possibility. His crew moved with flawless coordination, their trust in each other absolute. And as the ship accelerated into uncharted systems, he felt a surge of pride that was mirrored across humanity. Every child on Earth, every scientist, every warrior knew that the era of hiding and underestimation was over, that humans had claimed their place among the stars, and that nothing could undo the lessons they had learned or the victories they had earned. Ambassadors and leaders of other species sent emissaries and messages, some in awe, some in caution, all aware that humanity was no longer a simple player in galactic politics. They had risen above ridicule and mockery, above threats and disdain. Their resolve had crystallized into a force that combined intellect with instinct, strategy with courage, innovation with adaptability, and every interaction humans had now carried the weight of experience and the clarity of vision. The hidden ship had been the symbol. The spark, and the galaxy had understood that humans were the storm that could not be contained. As the Revenant and its fleet charted courses through unknown territories. Every system it passed rippled with whispers and preparations. The humans did not seek war, but they demanded respect, and their presence alone reshaped alliances and challenged assumptions. Old rivalries were reconsidered, new partnerships formed, and every encounter proved the lessons learned in secrecy and struggle. Humans were unstoppable, not because they desired domination, but because they had mastered the art of survival, the patience of strategy, the courage of conviction, and the brilliance of imagination. And the galaxy watched and waited for the next chapter in the story of a species that refused to be underestimated. And so humanity moved forward, unstoppable, unseen, and undeniable, their hidden strengths now known and their destiny forged in the fires of mockery and trial. They would explore, conquer, innovate, and protect, guided by wisdom and tempered by experience. They would write their legacy across the stars as the galaxy adapted to the presence of a species that had once been dismissed and now was undeniable and eternal. The hidden ship was no longer hidden. It was a beacon, a promise, a warning, and a symbol. And everywhere humans went, they carried the message that underestimation was now fatal and respect was mandatory. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of humanity, and it would never forget their cunning, their courage, their endurance, and their will to prevail. They had decloaked their secrets and shown their power, their minds and their hearts, and from this day forward, every civilization would measure themselves against the standard that humans had set, a standard built on resilience, ingenuity, and unstoppable determination. And as the stars stretched endlessly ahead, humanity moved into the future not as victims, not as prey, but as masters of their fate. The end.